each of the scalp and hammer bombs locked in on their unsuspecting quarry. Within seconds of the strike, and those are the pictures, viewers. Within seconds of the strikes, pictures of the resultant destruction were relayed back to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in real time, who was awaiting word at a command center. Modi was hoping to inflict, as he said, quote, unimaginable punishment, unquote, upon the Pakistan-sponsored plotters of Pahalgam. And the real-time video feed he was scrutinizing, Operation Sindoor on, did not disappoint him. Perhaps the military action was divined to succeed. For Sindoor is the vermilion red powder that many traditional Indian women wear on their hair parting, only to remove it if they become widowed. And since in Pahalgam several women were widowed, Operation Sindoor's name was powerfully prescient. In a span of 30 minutes, yes, just 30 minutes, or even less actually, if you really go by the second, 9 terror havens, some in Pakistan's beating heart of Punjab, were reduced to rubble. Several top terrorist masterminds lay dead or critically injured. That wretched Masood Azhar, he's crying like a baby today. Viewers, I'm not the type of person who likes to talk in terms of vengeance, but it certainly would have made at least a few people feel that there was a God up there. Half his family has been vaporized. He's feeling the pain that he's inflicted on thousands of Indians. Pakistan Army's pride was mashed into the ground, its image was in tatters, and its cadre was shocked and awed. What a come down for Pakistan. All those unhinged rants, those mad threats, that braggadocio called out by the quiet, steely resolve of Modi and the Indian military. Perhaps, viewers, most importantly, the Indian military. 9 hours later, India, clearly having scored big, briefed the world. And viewers, they scrubbed out any jingoism, any triumphalism, because we are a mature democracy and we are led by mature leaders. Instead, we gave a very legalistic account, viewers, a very legalistic account of what transpired between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m. Listen.
On April 22, 2025, Pakistani and Pakistan-trained terrorists belonging to the Lashkar-e-Taiba carried out a savage attack on Indian tourists at Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir in India. They murdered 26 people, including one national of Nepal, causing the largest number of civilian casualties in a terrorist attack in India. Pakistan also has a well-deserved reputation as a haven for terrorists from around the world, with internationally proscribed terrorists enjoying impunity there. Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt, as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible.
Measured, responsible, non-escalatory, and proportionate. In fitting symbolism, 2 women officers of the Indian Armed Forces briefed the world. They took turns in laying out how Operation Sindoor targeted major terror strongholds linked to groups such as the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and Hizbul Mujahideen. Key sites included Bahawalpur, and that's one of the officers on your screens, viewers. Meticulously, they explained the rationale. Why Bahawalpur, the Jaish headquarter, was struck. Muridke, the Lashkar headquarter, was struck. Muzaffarabad, Kotli, Sialkot, Gulpur, Bhimber Gali, Bagh, and Chakamru. All of them, viewers, were picked because they are the repositories of a obscurantism that has been bleeding India over the decades. Each of these sites, viewers, have at one point or the other tutored terrorists, including Ajmal Kasam, to come across and wreak havoc on Indian soil. Each was chosen for a reason. Too many to list here. But what can be said is that this was the first time since 1971 that India had struck this deep in Pakistan. In the annals of modern military history, India's Operation Sindoor arguably marks a watershed moment, and that's why I'm telling you, viewers, tonight. The military history of the subcontinent has changed, and perhaps with that, the subcontinent itself has changed. It has been blessed, this entire architecture of disruption has been blessed by Prime Minister Modi, but scripted by Ajit Doval. Let me linger a little bit longer on the role of these two men. Our Prime Minister, and we are lucky to be led by his steady, experienced hand, has never ever jeopardized India's case through loose talk. Even in Bihar, he was measured, never once naming Pakistan, never once had he appeared ruffled, anxious, or even in a hurry. Many have acted in haste in the past and made India repent at leisure, but not Prime Minister Modi. He, in fact, has steadily raised the stakes against Pakistan without, of course, allowing India to become hyphenated with it. And today was a classic example when Prime Minister Modi spoke about India's giant space ambitions in the only commentary he gave in public today. He talked about Viksit Bharat and about propelling India into a higher orbit, into leading humanity to the frontiers of innovation. He talked all of this when everyone thought he would talk about the military strike and would be triumphal. No, viewers, he completely has blanked it. And don't forget the role Ajit Doval has played. He might be a quiet operator, viewers, but he has proven that he has a very firm hand, a grasp on what to strike, how much force to deploy, when to go in. This would not have been possible without his contribution. And let me also tell you, viewers, without the contribution of the very tactically accomplished minds that lead us and protect us in our forces. This was not just a whole of government, but a comprehensive package unleashed on Pakistan. Let me begin by asking some basic questions, and I want to go straight across to General Pande, who has till very recently served at that frontier. General Bakshi is also here with us, and General Bakshi and General Pande have been up, I can tell you, with all of us viewers since 2 in the morning. Since 2 in the morning, viewers, we've been keeping a hawk eye, and I have to say that none of them was given to jingoism, just clear assessment. So congratulations to all of us as a nation tonight, viewers, because we've executed a clinical action which has actually only upheld our best democratic, inclusive credentials. General Pande, how do you see the military operation? Clearly, the Pakistani air defensive have flopped miserably. Could you assess the strike and the targets? Why were these targets chosen? Why didn't Pakistan get its act together? I'm not saying that it should. I'm delighted that it didn't. But it talks so much.
So let me just quickly come out for a few points which need mention here. In last few decades or for some time in my memory, possibly this is the first time besides the Americans and the Israelis, such kind of a strike has been carried out with specific intelligence from kinetic force without actually going that very deep. If you're watching what is happening into Houthis, so the NATO combined have carried out certain degree of action, but at least in the region here, besides the modern countries or NATO, nobody else has carried out such a strike. So that's a very, very major shift. And coming to a very possibly symbolic lower level, when two women officers are carrying out as a spokesperson, I have never seen my last about 40 years of military service that such kind of a representation to brief military operations have been given into hands of two colonel equivalent and a lieutenant colonel equivalent lady officers. So something a very great messaging to the world that we have possibly arrived at the high table to actually bat along with the world's most powerful nations. The second is the issue was the distinction which was required to be mentioned not in public. We kept on talking of terrorist. We never talked of military or Pak military facet. So a kinetic force going to punish the terrorist, but however non-kinetic force in terms of IWT being applied with to the government of Pakistan. So it's a very mature separation of application of your to apply will, to manage and manipulate the will of a competitor or an enemy state or the ones who don't want. So similarly, in the line of selection of targets, very important is that there are three verticals which carry out operations against India: the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, and HM. All three headquarters have been hit, right? The second is, more importantly than this, the safe haven which the Pak establishment gave to Osama bin Laden in the proximity of Abbottabad, thinking nobody is going to reach out here, was given at Bahawalpur, about 80 kilometers deep inside, and we did not have weapon platforms earlier to deliver punishment there. And in Muridke, which is quite close to Lahore, in a populated environment, to hit out at the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Toiba, both global headquarters of radicalization, training terrorists who are hardcore terrorists who carry out suicide bombing. They are sent across with a mission to die for the cause of religion, for the cause of Pakistan establishment, not technically for the cause of Kashmir. So I think this selection of the strike points is a great statement given out to the world as well, that Pakistan establishment harbors, trains, looks after these elements. And if you don't if you don't change the behavior of Pakistani establishment and designate them terrorist state, we can do it for you. And that is the message at the global level or the world stage which is being sent across. So I think the selection of, I am very sure, very deep thought for each and every targeting has been done. Also connecting them, each launch pad or each location from where in last few years, something has been perpetuated in terms of either in 2001 or later on in variety of events. So this marking is quite excellent planning which has been done by those people who have the powers be to select these targets and apply the pressure and hit them there. So wonderful. And most importantly, and I think there's a narrative which is going on at the world stage, even within our own country, unfortunately, There are people who start talking of, there was a religious symbol there. Masjid ko, I just want to very quickly go back when as a co-commander as an operation for first time in Sopore, in Shopian, which is happening, there were 5 terrorists which are hiding in a masjid. My only order to the GOC and the CO on the ground and to the public which was with me at that point of time was, the moment you occupy a masjid with weapon and equipment, it becomes a place for target. Right. We did the operation, we handed over to the people. So message should go back. Well, there is no place on earth where you can hide. It may be a religious place, or it may be a fortress, or it may be somewhere under the ground.
Okay, those pictures on your screens, viewers, the before and after of that Bahawalpur headquarters, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, there you can see it. It's been completely wrecked. Now, General Bakshi, could you please answer the question that everyone is asking? I just got a call, in fact, from my daughter just about 20 minutes back saying, will Pakistan retaliate? If they do, where will they hit? What is their target? We've hit terror targets what is Pakistan going to hit? We don't have terror camps or terrorist infrastructure on our soil. Or is it that if you listen to what the defense minister has said today of Pakistan, is Pakistan already being conciliatory? I want to understand from you, sir.
Look, Rahul, the simple fact is that we have pulled off absolute beautiful job, right? A professional job to the core. We have achieved surprise despite the early warning to the enemy, open declaration of intent. We have penetrated the enemy air defenses. The Pakistani Prime Minister said 75 to 80 Indian jets were involved. What were their radars, Chinese radars, doing? They failed them like they had failed them during the Iranian missile strike, right? The Chinese radars have failed them again. We have hit 9 targets, 5 in POK. We have hit 4 in Pakistan proper, including the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, as also the Hizbul Mujahideen headquarters. We have chosen visible targets, not one in the deep woods, you know, where you have the jungle mein mor nacha kisi ne na dekha. It's now there for the whole world to see, for every Pakistani to see. They have been hit, they have been blasted to smithereens, right? Now the point coming to your question, what can Pakistan do? The matrix of response options, purely from the theoretical point of view, is as follows. Missile strikes by his series of either M10, M11s, you know, the Shaheen, Abdali, etc., etc. He has a whole lot of these Cartoon Network kind of names of Islamic warriors. So, missile strikes, air strikes. What kind of targets? If he chooses military targets, if he chooses dams, if he chooses major population centers, this is precisely the rationale to escalate that we are looking for, right? So far, we confined ourselves to a proportionate, just, limited response. We hit only terror targets. Should Pakistan hit any military or civilian target of consequence, all gloves are off. Then we will go for the Pakistan armed forces. And the real caboodle, the terror ecosystem in Pakistan, is not headed by the terrorists. They are the minions. They are the expendable cannon fodder. It is the Pakistani army, ISI, deep state complex that must be hit if we want results that are deterrent enough, right? Deterrence by punishment. If you want to hit that, you have to get at the Pakistan army. The world won't allow you to do it in the first go. If Pakistan obliges you by escalating, getting to the forces level, then we have a free hand to hit back in kind and a justification before the world, right? Yeah. So, he can do missile strikes, he can do air strikes, he can do fire assaults across the line of control, limited operations to take chunks of territory. You know, that is the matrix of response options by Pakistan. What will he do?
That's
what
the question.
Will he choose?
Yeah.
Let me now get to that. You see, will he do nothing? We are hearing conciliatory noises. Are they not there to deceive you? We also gave them noises that it will take us 6-8 months. And thank you for giving me that opportunity, right? We also gave them the conciliatory noises. We are not doing it right now. Oh, it will take a long time. Don't worry. And it came the next day, right? So, is he giving you deception? Can Asim Munir hope not to strike? He will be kaput.
Okay.
His life will be at stake. Rahul, let me be very clear. He has to do something. Now, in game theory, when you war game options, then you say the option to your escalation level one up the escalation ladder is to either give a weak response or a strong response. If you want to de-escalate, then you end up trying to give a weak sort of response, what is called tokenism, like the kind he did in Balakot. Khali bloody area of bushes he bombed and claimed that he had hit an ammunition dump, he'd hit a headquarter, this, that and the rest of it. That is the so-called Dullat and the Pakistan DG ISI chief, they wrote a book together, to suggest this comedy.
Okay.
Right? It is to just get the public pressure off your back. So he will do something. What he chooses, he'll have to think carefully. If he chooses to escalate in a major way,
now
it gives us the rationale, the justification to go for the Pakistani armed forces, which should be the real target if we want deterrence by punishment.
So let me bring in Air Marshal Kapoor, and you've been awake also, Air Marshal, along with Sushant Serene from 3 in the morning. I know this, so I have to ask you this. We have the S-400s, we have air superiority in the event of a Pak air attack. How effective will we be in countering any misadventure? Let's put it like that.
The exercise which has started in the Rajasthan sector, in the SWAC headquarters around Rajasthan sector, I covered on your channel also. Each inch of Pakistani Punjab is heavily defended, both by air defense and on ground, because this is where all their assets are, and this is where everything which is controlled in that country is held. Pakistani Punjab, every square inch is covered and blanketed by their air defense system. But beyond that, towards Sindh and towards Balochistan, is not as well defended. They know their weakness. The Navy is already there on this side. Now, like General Bakshi said, they will certainly come. They have no choice but to retaliate. Now, when it would be, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, maybe after 3 days, maybe after 7 days, nobody knows. They would also be working. They have to play to the masses. Now, what action would they be taking is the thing which we are discussing. They may like to come across, and or they may use the standoff weapons like we did from their side and fire.
The question is more specific. How can we thwart them?
Yes.
What is the panoply of systems we have?
Exercise is on. So our aircrafts are already deployed all along from Gujarat to Rajasthan sector. And we have heavy defenses along with S-400s and our air defense equipment positioned along our J&K and Punjab sector. So the things would be churning out the maximum now, because we expect a retaliation. And we have enough capabilities at all levels to detect and destroy the attack that comes through.
Sushant Serene, Lahore is the cradle of Pakistan's elite. Pakistan's elite, and just about 30 kilometers from there, they've felt the ripples already. Obviously, they're not going to be sleeping very well tonight. How deep a psychological scar is this when you go quite fairly close to this patrician set in Pakistan that has, quite frankly, in 2 generations not felt insecure from across the border? Let's just put it very frankly. So I have to ask you this. And secondly, I must ask you, what is the pressure that is likely to now mount on the military in Pakistan?
So, Rahul, one, on how well they will sleep or not sleep, I would imagine that they can sleep well, depending on whether they have decided that they're going to up the ante and launch any kind of an attack on India. Because I think from the Indian side, it's been made very clear that we've done what we had to do, and there is no such indication that we intend to keep following it up at this point in time. Maybe if there was another terror attack from Pakistan side, yes, this is now clearly an established option that this is what we are going to exercise. But other than that, I don't see any government in India which is very interested in getting into an unnecessary escalatory spiral. And I say unnecessary escalatory spiral advisedly. Because if the Pakistanis were to escalate and to attack any population center or a military target, then of course there will be necessary escalation on the Indian part. And then of course everything is up for grabs, right? So I would imagine that if there is no intention on the Pakistani side to do anything beyond what has already happened, then I think they can sleep in peace. But let's also, I would imagine that while I don't disagree entirely with what my colleagues earlier have said about what the Pakistanis may or may not do, but I feel that if the Pakistanis do not want to get into that escalatory spiral, then they have probably prepared enough sufficient ground for themselves to claim a victory. Okay, and it becomes a kind of a win-win, and it gives a kind of a, you can say, an off-ramp to both sides until the next time. So there is that possibility, because once you go up the escalatory spiral, then what is going to be your off-ramp? At what point of time does the people around the world come in? How do they pull the two sides aside? Or do the two sides continue to go into an action-reaction cycle until it reaches a full-scale war? And for all you know, that if we do something, if the Pakis do something, we retaliate, the Pakis might do something else to try and pull some kind of a surprise on us. I don't think those are possibilities that we can rule out. Please remember that you have a regime in Pakistan which, you know, has the ability to spin the narrative in a way that it can proclaim victory and walk away from going up the escalation ladder. Alternatively, it could feel that it needs to really establish its credentials, and Asim Munir needs to emerge as the Napoleon of Pakistan, although Napoleon actually finally lost everything later on because he overplayed his hand. So maybe Asim Munir would do well to remember that. Or any of the other German generals they keep talking about, all of them finally had to commit suicide or were killed. So I think that would depend on what their calculation is. I don't think the civilian government really counts for much, unless we've heard, of course, some statements coming out of the civilians. Now, obviously, they've been put up to it. Now, whether that is deception, as General Bakshi is suggesting, or whether that is some kind of a signaling, okay, fine, if the Indians are not going up the escalation ladder and the Indians are stepping aside, then fine, you know, maybe we can also take that off ramp. But look, let's also be very clear about another thing. You know, as far as the Pakistanis are concerned, when they talk about going up the escalation ladder, they also have to take into account how far are they willing to go for it.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to prove to be extremely expensive for them. I'm not quite sure if they're actually interested in going for a full-fledged war. But if they are going to go up that escalation ladder, then that the possibility of a full-fledged war cannot entirely be ruled out. Only thing I would caution everybody is that don't think that there are going to be very many rungs before you enter into a war-like scenario. Maybe 2, maybe 3 at best, if we are lucky. It could happen even earlier. So I don't think those possibilities can entirely be ruled out. So let's keep our powder dry and let's see what's going to come from that side.
Okay. Well, Sushant Sri, I'll let you go. But I want to now bring in Tilak Deveshwar on this important subject tonight. And Tilak Deveshwar, look, the audacity of India's Operation Sindoor, many are saying, rewrites the rules of retaliation between nuclear armed states. They say that in a nuclear dyad like India and Pakistan, you know, conventional wisdom has long held that direct military responses to provocations risks, you know, like all of us have been talking about, uncontrollable escalation. Now, you know, this, because we are also convinced of this Cold War era dictum, many Indian leaders before Prime Minister Modi sort of turned the other cheek after being sort of mauled by Pakistani-based terror proxies. But obviously Narendra Modi hasn't, and from the post-Uri surgical strikes to Operation Sindoor now, Modi has become adept at turning, to put it crudely, terror launch pads into tombstones. So I have to ask you this, because have we been able to now call Pakistan's nuclear bluff And without that, with all sub-nuclear conventional, options available, do you think the Pakistanis are going to engage in a tit for tat? Let's just put it quite openly there.
So, two things, Rahul. First, this is the third time we've done it. We did it in Uri, we did it in Balakot, and we have demonstrated again that there is space under the nuclear overhang for a conventional response to terrorism. And we have established this, that in interstate relationship, there is no place for terrorism. And if Pakistan does indulge in terrorism, the consequences they will have to face. So I think this is one important doctrinal change that this government has established as far as Pakistan is concerned. Now, the other thing which you were discussing earlier about Pakistan's response, and will Pakistan do the same thing? I firmly believe that Pakistan has no option but to retaliate. For the sake of their own population. After all, the Pakistan army has a larger than life presence, so they think they have, or they had. They no longer do, but they don't seem to realize that they no longer have that kind of a dominant role in Pakistan that they had earlier. But to preserve whatever little is left, they will have to respond. Their dilemma is that what do they respond to? There are no terror training camps in India. So either they target civilians or they target military. In both cases, there is going to be a response. Or they drop their ammunition in the Rajasthan desert, it hurts nobody, and you can say the fall of the crisis. But here is the crucial part. What India has done with the Indus Water Treaty, holding it in abeyance, and Pakistan will insist that you go back to status quo ante. And I think the government is determined not to allow that. I think the recent statements that the Prime Minister made, that how was our water allowed to be used and we will not allow this, and the kind of changes we propose making, even in the western rivers, show that this is going to be a long-term planning for India to make sure that the impact on Pakistan's agriculture and food security is extremely severe. So this does not give Pakistan an off-ramp, even if they don't want to go up the escalatory ladder on the kinetic side. What do they do with this issue which India has raised about the Indus Water Treaty being held in abeyance? This, I think, for the long term, is the most crucial blow that India has initiated against Pakistan. The results may not be available straight away, but the results will certainly be there as we go down. For example, the Kharif sowing crop season is going to begin in May. If they don't have adequate water, what do they do?
We're going to put on those shots, viewers. Those really matter. All these graphics don't really matter. Look at the before and after, viewers. Look at the before and after. Muritke, Bawalpur, etc. And I want to bring in two gentlemen now, Zorawar Daulat Singh and General Bakshi. Zorawar Daulat Singh, off-ramp. What is the off-ramp for Pakistan? Because we are now only assessing what they're going to do next. We've done what we had to do. We've shown them what we are capable of doing. We've made a distinction between the Pakistani state and the non-state actors. And it's been a very legalistic argument that we have put forward. So they've already claimed they've knocked down some of our planes, this, that, the other, the regular shenanigans. So what is their off-ramp? And can General Munir galvanize the forces behind him? There are sectarian, there are also, and we know this, tribal fault lines in that country. They run quite deep. And he's been copying a lot of criticism. I think you're on mute, sir. Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah. In any kind of crisis, the adversary is going to have a vote. Now, we are facing three different audiences as we have approached our response to the Pahalgam terror strike. The first is domestically, it was absolutely necessary to showcase that we have responses to terrorism that are kinetic and calibrated. We also were looking towards the international community, particularly the most powerful players like United States, China, Western Europe, who have enormous influence with Pakistan and its army, that we are responsibly dealing with terror in a kinetic fashion and yet are not going to ramp it up to a level that will destabilize the regional security situation. But the third audience, which is the most important for us if we want to reestablish deterrence, is the Pakistan army. Now, the Pakistan army does not distinguish between non-state actors, state actors. Their sovereignty, as they see it, has been violated with this airstrike, which has taken out important symbolic targets, their cultivated assets. Now they have been embarrassed as from their domestic polity. Now, if they are seeking to, they have two different approaches to how they will de-escalate the situation. They can escalate to de-escalate, or they can take an off-ramp the way you have international players today who are advising counsel and restraint to both sides. If they were to scale up and truly put the ball back in India's court, because if you recall, we've had previous conversations, the tokenism of these one-off strikes and, you call it quits, it can reach a situation where now you have to, if you open the Pandora's box, are you willing to go all the way? When I mean all the way means you've got to be able to go up several notches to de-escalate the situation. Or you're going to eventually leave the adversary emboldened for the next round after 1 year, 2 years, 3 months, when the next major terror strike comes. So I would say Indian policymakers are also evaluating this matrix that they operate in, which have enormous amounts of constraints inbuilt into this military balance. And I think what this crisis shows is that you have to employ other comprehensive tools, which has been done. You have compromised the potential longevity of Pakistan's water security. You're talking of the fault lines. I think when you put that entire picture together, that's what I think puts pressure on the Pakistani elite and the Pakistan army. Because conventionally, and I'm going to be very frank here for the Indian audience, conventionally at the high-tech level in a limited conflict, intensive vertical escalation, the Pakistan army believes it can face the Indian military eyeball to eyeball in this compressed time frame that we're talking about. Now, we would love to go up the escalation ladder and truly impose our superiority. Do we have time for that? I don't believe the modern technological environment, the international situation allows for that. So we have to use beyond conventional military power to reorient the calculus of Rawalpindi. If they see that these guys are not going to stop here, I don't mean by more rounds of brinksmanship. I mean, are they serious about a strategy of containment? If India is going to pursue a policy of containment towards Pakistan, then you have an opportunity to change the calculus of the Pakistani military.
Okay.
But if not, you are actually going to leave them emboldened for the next crisis. That's an interesting
thesis. General Bakshi, could India be readying other kinetic options?
Yeah.
Could that be something that we've not looked at? Because, the idea was, and I want to ask you, be honest tonight. Have we failed, perhaps, to take this opportunity to restore deterrence?
Look, the simple fact is, if you repeat what you did in Balakot, a one-stop escalation ladder, you hit Pakistan, retaliate.
No, General Saab, I'm asking you about this particular strike, this panoply of strikes. Will this restore deterrence?
No. No, that's precisely what I'm saying. Why you do things with a particular aim. The aim, as you very clearly have articulated, is to restore deterrence. You do not restore deterrence if you give an off-ramp, he doesn't take it, he goes to the next step, and you are now looking for a way out. You will have to stay the course, like Daulat very rightly said, 2 to 3 steps up the escalation ladder, or your credibility with the Pakistan army will go further down. He threatened a lot, he did very little, right? He did very little. And hitting the terrorists, let me tell you, they are expendable. They are totally expendable.
So are you saying we should go up?
Worry about
we should have gone up. This should have been a broader strike. Are you saying that we should have hit a couple of Pakistani military installations? What are you saying exactly? I have to understand this.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying we started off very well.
Okay.
The first strike has to be calibrated so that it is in the digestion level of the rest of the world. You have a very just cause image of a proportionate response.
Okay.
You give him an off-ramp. He doesn't take it. He doesn't take it. Now you have to be ready for step 2 and step 3. You got me.
I got you.
When you give him an off-ramp, immediately after...
So the off-ramp is, look, we've only gone after, so just correct me if I'm wrong, General Saab, the off-ramp is, we've gone after just your terrorists and your terrorist infrastructure, the non-state actors, as you call them, people who are working beyond the pale of the state, uncontrolled by you. We've done you a favor. Accept the favor, look the other way, say, yes, these people, they were a problem for everybody. Thank you. Or make a couple of noises and say, look, yes, we downed a couple of your crafts, this, that, the other, it's all over and done with. That's what you're saying, fundamentally.
That is exactly what I'm saying. So we have done the right thing in giving them an off-ramp after move 1, right?
Okay.
After move 1. It's very difficult for Asim Munir to swallow it.
Okay.
I totally agree with Mr. Daveshar.
Okay.
Totally agree. It is his existence at stake, man. It is,
Okay.
he'll be lynched.
So let me,
He's not very popular with the Pakistan army.
let me bring
So
in Air
he
Marshal.
will escalate 1 and then what do you do?
Okay, Air Marshal, this is it. He's got the ramp. Will he take it?
See, the difference between the previous attacks and this is a precision strike. And it is at not one place. Uri and Balakot were a single target that was being taken out. Here we have put across a list of 21 targets. It's not that the world has not been told that this is not the 9. We chose this 9, but we have information. The next thing from Israel-Hamas war and Russia-Ukraine war that has come is the use of satellites and precision strikes.
Right.
This is an indication to Murid K, which is just touching Lahore, and Bahawalpur, which must have been so well guarded. This is an indication by the strike by our troops in the forces is that we exactly know how to take out things.
Okay.
We exactly are in a position to take out the specific target if we so desire.
Okay.
In my opinion, this is another message that we are wanting to send.
Okay, I have 3 minutes precisely. I'm going to divide them between Mr. Deveshar and, of course, Mr. Daulat Singh very quickly. Very visible strikes, these ones. Tilak Deveshar, very visible. Makes this arrogant general in Pakistan look very weak. Would you agree? And therefore, his pride is on the line and he wants to do something. Or will he suck it in? And that's the question that maybe Zorawar Daulat Singh can answer. Yes.
No, it is very visible for a specific reason. That after Balakot, they said only a crow and a few trees were hit.
True.
This time, the Pakistani public knows that despite investing so much of money in their armed forces, they could not prevent these strikes across the board, right from POK, right down into the heart of Punjab.
So is he too, egotistical to back off now? Or
He can't. He's on a tiger.
Okay.
He can't get off the tiger.
He can't get off. Daulat Singh, he can't get off? Or is there elbow room?
See, they are obliged in their own framework to respond, but the precise nature of the response is very much in their control. They can choose to do it in a fashion that de-escalates the situation and calms it down, or they could place the onus back to the Indian military forces and the political leadership if they really want to sort of up the ante. So let's just see the ingredients of that response. But from an Indian perspective, you surely can't be preparing and hoping that they are just going to sort of take the off-ramp and walk away. Because what if they call your bluff and say, are you guys ready for that level 2, 3, 4? And if you are found wanting, then I'm afraid this particular duel can be considered to have been lost from the point of view of deterrence. It still has attained certain international objectives and domestic audience objectives, but we are trying to change the calculus of the Pakistan army. So we're going to have to wait and see for the next several days.
Okay, let's go across now to General VP Malik. I'm going to ask him the same question. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you and good evening and best of luck. Let's just hope that we pull through this and we pull through this with aplomb. VP Malik, I'm just going to go straight across to the General now and ask him the same question. Have we done enough to deter Pakistan? Let's go straight across. Yes. Now, viewers, is this only the end of the beginning, so to speak? Let's get that question in with General VP Malik, former Chief of Army Staff. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us. You were, of course, at the helm of affairs when India drove the intruders out of Kargil. But this is very, very different. The context is also very different. How would you evaluate, first of all, India's strike, this panoply of strikes, the packages that were used, and most importantly, do you believe that this is literally the end of the beginning, or is it not?
Good evening, Rahul. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, sir.
This strike, there has been a paradigm shift from our earlier proactive actions that we took. The first proactive action, politically sanctioned, was when we carried out surgical strikes after the Uri attack by the terrorists. That was the first time that politically we were given the mandate to go ahead and strike their camps, not very far away from the line of control. The second one was even slightly higher after Pulwama's incident that took place. And this time the Air Force went and struck the Balakot camp, which is not just in POK, but in Punjab. And it hit the Daesh camp there. So this time, when we thought that Pakistani terrorists and their sponsors had crossed the red line, it had to be a much harsher response. And that is what happened this time. We started off with whole of the nation approach, in which we started off with diplomatic and economic activities. We stopped their water, and we told them that we are now suspending the Indus Water Treaty, which is a very major step that is being taken. It has been considered so many times earlier, but this step was never taken earlier. And this time, we had the courage to take that step. And of course, here I mean political courage that we had. The other thing, as far as the strike is concerned, now this time we have taken on all the camps of both Daesh as well as Lashkar, not only in POK, but also in Punjab. As you know, we have struck Bhavalpur, we have struck Muridke, which is close to Lahore, and we have also struck another camp in Sialkot. And we have used the newer weapons that are available with us, the technology that is available with the services. We have made full use of that. So there has been a paradigm shift in our handling this particular activity this time, or carrying out this retaliatory action as compared to the earlier ones. And this whole of the nation approach is still ongoing, let me say that. The Indus Water River has, we have already suspended it, and we can continue to block or let the water flow whenever we want. And also we can make full use of the river water that we had in mind. You know, there are so many hydropower projects that we have in mind to be able to make use of these river flows, particularly in J&K, I would say. So this time has been a paradigm shift. But the other part of your question, is it the beginning of the end? I'm not too sure. My own view is that although we have been able to hit the people and their camps of terrorists who are functioning under the armed forces, Pakistani army in particular, you know, we have not hit the people who are giving them orders, the people who are sponsoring them. And these terrorists who have come on our side or who are camping that side, they are dispensable people, dispensable commodity as far as the Pakistan army is concerned. The other thing is that this time Pakistan army has been hit, at least their intentions, people are now crying in in Pakistan and asking what is the Pakistan army doing. So its image has been hit. And that probably was also one of our intention to do that. So with that image, with its image having been hit, I have a feeling that there will be a certain retaliatory action from their side. And we have to be prepared for that. And a good thing is that we are a much stronger power today, and we can dominate the escalation, and we can stop it or wherever we want to, that escalatory action activities.
So General Saab, are you saying that, okay, how would you assess the options that we considered this time and their deterrent capacity? Has it served as a deterrent, this option that we have considered?
Hopefully so. And, but I would not be very certain about it, frankly. I'm saying because after all, these people, the Jaish and the Lashkar and all, they are dispensable commodity as far as Pakistan army is concerned. If we had hit Pakistan army establishment and done something which lowers the image of the Pakistan army in Pakistan, then, you could have looked at it slightly differently. But the manner in which Pakistan army looks at these dispensable commodity under their control, I'm not too sure whether this is the last time that we will face the terrorist action from the other side.
Do you believe, General, that we should have actually also hit a range of military or deep state targets? If we really wanted to enforce deterrence on Pakistan, if we wanted to enforce, we should have broadened the scope?
Personally, I feel that we should have. It has not hit the Pakistani military directly. And unless, it hits Pakistan military and their leadership directly, they will probably wait for another opportunity to carry out this very cheap strike capability which is available with them.
So, General Malik, what really was the objective then behind this package of munitions and, of course, the wherewithal that they relied upon and the strategy that has been adopted? What do you think went through the military commanders' minds when they decided to adopt these options rather than a more broader option?
Look, I think, this should not be looked at only militarily. This is a really political activity, political aim, objective, which is what makes the army and armed forces follow a certain strategy and select the targets. Now, I think we want to bring down the image of Pakistan and isolate Pakistan, particularly its terrorist activities. It is, everybody knows that it is the hub of the terrorism in this part of the world, both internationally as well as in domestically also in Pakistan. The fact is that Pakistan today is suffering. It has been suffering politically, financially, we all understand that, and socially also. Punjabi Muslims are getting isolated within their own country. And Pakistan army also doesn't have the same kind of image that it had some years ago. So I think we were trying to lower the image, isolate Pakistan, both internationally. So probably that was what was in our mind. And that is why the diplomatic activity has been quite strong to isolate Pakistan.
Well, obviously a response from Pakistan will also depend on what they make of this particular action that India has taken. So if they assess it to be one that is anti-Islam, because they have said already in their statements, and this is not me, but this is what they have said in their statements, that mosques were destroyed and that we targeted their place of worship. Then they went on to say innocents were killed. So Muslims were targeted, innocent Muslims were targeted. Then they went on to say that these strikes were unprovoked, that India is playing aggressor. If one were to incorporate these assessments that Pakistan has made, then on the basis of that, how do you see them responding? Is it going to be like for like? Are they going to go after, for example, religious sites in India? Are they going to target civilians? What do you
I
think?
think for that, you have to understand the mindset of the Pakistani military leadership today. And we all understand, we all know that after the kind of speeches that Asim Munir has made recently, what kind of a mindset he has. He is a madrasa educated person who believes in two-nation theory. The rest of Pakistan or rest of the world may not believe in it, but he does that. And he is also a radicalized Islamist. There is absolutely no doubt about it, the kind of speeches that he has been making lately. So when you look at that, I won't be surprised that they make another effort in this direction. And they may again target somewhere and try and divide Hindus, Muslims, as they have done in Pahalgam and elsewhere also. So this kind of terrorist strike, I won't rule it out. I'm not saying that it may happen tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I think for some time that deterrent will work. But then as long as people like Munir are in power and dominating not only the military but also the Pakistan polity, you should not rule out that kind of action from their side.
Presented by
For the funeral of those who are found in these terror markazes, it's all people in uniform. BSF Rangers, local police, Pak Army, they are all present there along with local politicians and mullahs. Top government sources are pointing at this, Group Captain MJ Vinod and viewers, and saying if military personnel and netas are attending the funeral of jihadis, what bigger proof that all of this is state-backed?
Absolutely. I don't think we have any doubt on that. In fact, I would have even looked at this particular funeral procession as itself as a very big target, because in one probably scalp, we could have taken out all of them. Anyway, be that as it may, the point is, Anand, we still have viable targets in Pakistan. For retribution, what target does Pakistan have? Actually, there's nothing. I think they should be thankful to India that we cleaned up a little bit of, trash which they wanted to and they couldn't. And we did their job. At least that is my take on the subject. And second and most important thing, Anand, is out of 21, we took out only 9.
Yeah.
We have more to go. So which means we will, we at least hold the right to revisit these rest of the targets.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, let me also tell you, for Pakistan to go back to the world to say, to do some kind of operation, I would look at, if I was a Pakistani, I would look at probably the dams. Because we stopped the water, the only viable target that he can go against is probably a token attack on a dam. You can't break a dam. It takes, a few years to break a dam. But a token attack on dam is something which we should be watching out for. And Operation
But that's
Sindoor
an open act of war. That's not a de-escalatory measure. That's an open act of war.
So is Poonch, Anand. This Poonch itself, Poonch has been completely evacuated. That's what my sources tell me. There is not a soul today. So Poonch itself is an open act of war, because number of people who have died in Poonch, your numbers and the numbers that I'm hearing are slightly in difference. I'm hearing numbers upwards of 20 and to 25, which is very close to the numbers that happened in Pulwama has happened in Poonch. So to me, Poonch is another Pulwama, and which requires even a bigger kick than what we have already given. The aspect about Operation Sindoor is also, it's an operation which is wrapped in courage and soaked in sacrifice.
Yes.
So it's like saying, you may break our hearts, but you'll never break our spirit. India moved with purpose pride and pain. If you look at, look at Delhi and people in Delhi, they all are very happy, but they are also in a heart of heart, they are, pained because so many people were killed. Sindoor, like you rightly said, is not only a marriage between a man and a woman, but also a marriage between soldier and the soil. It is the color of the blood, this is correct, but it is also a color of commitment. And this is not retaliation. This is a retribution with responsibility. So that is what I look at Operation Sindoor as.
Right. But General Sahab, what happens now? What are Bharat's options? Are both sides, from your understanding, looking for de-escalation, or if anything that the Pakistanis do now, till what level are we let it to look at it as an off-ramp? How many more lives are we ready to lose to look at an off-ramp or a de-escalation, as Sushant Sareen puts it? Or are we going to continue to press on the buttons if Pakistan does any act of retaliation?
So, Anand, once we breached the LOC and the IP together, we should deem it that the ceasefire is dead. Now, dragging the ceasefire to our bosoms beyond this is, I think, is incorrect. And it's not Poonch alone. It's about 600 kilometers of villages all along the line of control, right up to Kathua, which are all located there. And they are across the fence also. They're tilling across the fence. Today morning, the LG had ordered all these villages to be vacated and moved backward. Because, obviously when we are stuck across the line of control, they would be targeted. And, Poonch being a bowl gets targeted first. We would be targeting Kotli also, even as artillery, not as part of the yesterday night. Kotli is normally also targeted, Nikyal, and there are many other hundreds of places that we are targeting ourselves. So either we respond back in equal measure and hit into their townships like they're hitting Poonch as a measure to quieten them, which has been done earlier, to say that you hit our villages, we hit your village back, and then that quietens it. Or we do technology and push the artillery out. The artillery has got finite amount of range, say 30 kilometers. So.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. India has struck Pakistan. 2 weeks after the Pahalgam terrorist attack, India has done what it promised to do: punish the perpetrators and their masters. Early this morning, Indian forces launched what they called Operation Sindoor. They targeted 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. We will tell you where and how this operation unfolded. The big question now is,